Hey, Astro Kids, and welcome back. This is your horoscope for Mercury and Pisces, which will be from March 31st until April 15th of 2021. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So here on the 31st of March, Mercury will shift into its debilitation of Pisces. This is a very challenging position for Mercury. As many of you know, Mercury is the planet of communication, logical thinking, decision making, understanding patterns and concepts. And so, as Mercury comes into Pisces, this becomes very confusing, as Pisces has a very different way of understanding things. Pisces is very much daydreamy, imaginative, creative. This is left brain meeting right brain. There is a discrepancy between these two energies. And so Mercury is having a very difficult time understanding and reasoning in the sign of Pisces. I've said this before, and many other astrologers have used this analogy of talking underwater, right? Mercury in Pisces is very much this blurry, daydreamy, difficult to understand type of energy. And so as Mercury comes into Pisces, this becomes difficult in terms of using logic and reasoning to understand situations. This becomes much more easier when trying to use intuition, when trying to understand things based upon feeling and deeper insight. And so this can be a difficult transit, especially for those of you who are more used to using logic and details to understand what is happening. And we'll talk about how this will affect all of you for your individual charts. But before we get into that, coming into this debilitation of Mercury, Mercury will come into a combustion. So remember that Venus and the sun are together. So Venus is in this combust state. Mercury will be shifting here as well. Now, keep in mind that Mercury is always close to the sun. So this is not necessarily a negative thing as Mercury's coming into this combustion. This is something that is specific to the actual degrees of where Mercury will be. And so as we come into this transit here to begin with, this is not going to be a full combustion yet. Mercury is coming into Pisces here with this association over to the sun and Venus, but not fully in its combust state. So as Mercury shifts into Pisces, there is this more daydreaming, this more imaginative type of communication and thinking that comes into play. Mercury, as it moves closer to that combustion, will start to function incorrectly. And remember that Mercury is already debilitated here in Pisces. So as it comes into the combustion, this becomes even more difficult, where there can be some misunderstandings, some misinformation, some difficulties. But ultimately, we want to pay attention to where is Mercury in your chart? What houses is it ruling? Is it a beneficial or malefic planet in your chart? That is most important to understand with this Mercury transit. Also, Mercury is going to receive a third aspect from Saturn. So, Saturn is there in the sign of Capricorn, where it will continue throughout the rest of this year. Saturn is one of our social planets, all about the structure, the discipline, the society. It is the framework of our society and government. And so, this is the structure, the foundation that society is dependent on here with Saturn, right? Saturn is everything that is making everything work. So this is a hardworking planet, a disciplined planet, and especially in its own sign of Capricorn. So we've talked a little bit about that, but as Mercury is receiving its third aspect from Saturn, this is helping Mercury out a little bit here. Remember that the third is connected to the third house of communication. It is about our skill sets, it's about what we have interest in. So Saturn is helping Mercury in its debilitated state by giving us a little bit more of a practical understanding through our society, through our structure, through our discipline. And so, most importantly, for those of you who are struggling with this Mercury and Pisces energy as we're coming into this shift, understanding that using discipline, using routine, understanding the structure, the order of everything is going to help you when trying to understand things logically. So even though Mercury is debilitated, Saturn is still a logical planet, and it's in this aspect that is aiding Mercury in understanding through reality. So paying attention to those structures, those patterns, staying disciplined, staying focused, having everything structured and ordered can help for those of you who are struggling with this energy. K2 is also going to give a fifth aspect over to Mercury as well. And so there is a lot that is coming up to the surface as K2 is aspecting over to Mercury. And Mercury is already in Pisces, which is connected to the spiritual realm, connected to imagination. There's a lot of mystical and deeper information that's connected to this sign of Pisces. And so there's a lot that is coming up to the surface, especially with K2 in Jeshta, which is a Pisces Navamsa. So this is a very great time of going inward, of going within and seeing these deeper levels of knowledge and information that's coming up to the surface. And we'll talk more once again about how this will actually affect you in your particular chart. But there's a lot of hidden knowledge, a lot of hidden information that is surfacing here. So, using this Mercury, using this in a way where you can interpret and understand. Again, Mercury is in a territory where this is right brain thinking. Mercury is not functioning as correctly, but this is also a part of what you can gain from this transit is this deeper understanding, this deeper feeling, this deeper interpretation that you can tap into. And so this becomes a great transit for meditation, for journaling. This becomes a great transit for keeping a dream journal around. A lot of things that can come up to the surface depending on where this is actually positioned in your chart. Now, Mercury is also going to shift through each of the nakshatras here in the sign of Pisces. So it will continue here into the Purvabhadra nakshatra that started in Aquarius, symbolized by the swords. Remember that this is connected to humanitarianism, connected to serving your divine purpose and mission in life. And so we will start off here in the sign of Pisces with Mercury here. A lot that is trying to be understood and felt out in terms of your soul mission, in terms of your purpose, in terms of what direction you're going to move in as we start this out. As we move into the Atara nakshatra, symbolized by the snake at the bottom of the ocean, and this is a Saturn ruled nakshatra. So this becomes a very rational time of being able to tap deeper into this information, this knowledge that is surfacing. Once again, this energy of Mercury and Pisces is very foggy, it's very daydreamy, it's difficult to interpretate. Saturn is trying to help you in this process, right? Saturn is trying to give some understanding, some logical parameters for you to be able to tap into this deeper wealth of knowledge. And so, especially as we come into this Atara nakshatra being ruled by Saturn, this becomes a great time of diving deeper into this information that is surfacing. So, for those of you who are receiving messages, those of you who are receiving dreams, those of you who are seeing repeating patterns, all of these things that can pop up in your day to day reality, being able to interpret that further to see what your subconscious is trying to communicate to you becomes a huge part of this transit here. Now, as we move farther out into the Ravati Nakshatra, this becomes a little bit more difficult. This is a Mercury ruled Nakshatra, but this becomes very Gemini like, where this is represented by two fish. This is a confusing nakshatra, as this becomes very daydreamy, very curious, This is a search. This is going with the flow of everything, and this becomes very difficult to understand as we're coming into this nakshatra. And so, as we come to the end of this Pisces Mercury transit, this becomes a really great time, especially to have a journal, to be able to talk things out, to try to get another perspective on the information that you're gathering, to make sure that you are fully understanding and being able to integrate everything that is coming through in this transit. So let's go ahead and jump into each of the zodiac signs, depending on your moon or your ascendant, how this will affect you during this transit. So, for those of you with an Aries moon or Aries ascendant, this is happening back in your 12th house. And we have this stellium of planets that is going to be happening here back in your 12th house. Once again, Mercury is meeting up with the Sun and Venus that have been here in the sign of Pisces for quite a bit now. So, this is a power pack combination of being able to tap in deeper into your spiritual wealth of knowledge. And this becomes especially about knowledge because Mercury is controlling your third house and your sixth house, and the sun is controlling your fifth house. So, this becomes a great time to tap deeper into knowledge, to understanding things at a deeper level. And so, for the most part, for those of you here with an Aries ascendant or Aries moon, those who are working on your education, working towards your goals, trying to understand the information that you're gathering, this becomes a great time of going deeper into your work, going deeper into your studies, understanding everything at a deeper level. And especially as K2 is there in your eighth house, a lot of you can come into mystical knowledge, you can come into occult knowledge that can help you on a deeper level of understanding your worth, understanding your value, understanding your purpose in life. This is a huge focus that is coming through for those of you with an Aries moon or Aries ascendant is your education, your learning. Now, Saturn is there in your 10th house, very powerful position. Many of you are able to hold a steady foundation in terms of your career, in terms of your status, in terms of your destination in life. And Saturn is there pulling out this wealth of knowledge and information. And so this becomes a good time of trying to understand how to take the knowledge, how to take the information that you have, how to take those conversations that you have with others, those different perspectives, and to make it more concrete, to put it towards some sort of plan, some sort of construct that you can use in your career, in your status, in your reputation that you're building. So this is a huge time where you can take the things that you're learning and actually apply it practically in your life. And again, this can be a very difficult transit as Mercury is debilitated. So this is one of those transits where you want to make sure that you are understanding everything, anything that doesn't make sense, going into it deeper, having that journal, having that conversation, connecting with those who can help you on this level. And with Venus controlling your second house and your seventh house, your partner and those closest to you can also help you understand any of these messages or symbols that could be coming up on a subconscious level as well. From that 12th house, Mercury is also going to aspect over to your sixth house. So, again, being able to apply more structure, more understanding to your actual work life. So, taking these visions, taking your inspiration, taking your creative ideas, pulling it out and putting it to practical use becomes very strong here for those of you with an Aries ascendant or Aries moon. This is a huge opportunity where you can use any sort of knowledge that you have gathered to actually create something in real time. So, for those of you with a Taurus moon or Taurus ascendant, this will be a debilitated Mercury in your 11th house. And so there's a lot going on here in terms of Mercury, as it is your second lord. So Mercury is in a bit of a difficult position here where there's a lot in terms of speech and connection that can be a bit difficult. But remember that Mercury also is there for you as your fifth house lord, also. So there's a lot here in terms of being able to create what you want to see, being able to get the results that you want to see, especially as Mercury is opposing its original house that it rules. So this is a huge time where you can take your knowledge, you can take your skills, you can take your creativity and put it towards the goal that you want to see. Put it towards your long-term dreams of what you want to fulfill. But again, with Mercury debilitated, this can be very difficult to interpret. There can be a lot of dreamy or abstract ideas about what it is that you want to achieve. And so you want to pay close attention to what are all of the details? How can you make this happen? How can you put this to practical use? And again, Saturn will help you with this as Saturn is sitting there in your ninth house. A lot of mentors, a lot of teachers, a lot of inner guidance that can help you in actually processing and putting this whole plan together for what it is that you want to gain from your projects, from your work that you are trying to progress in here with this debilitated Mercury. Mercury also being there with the Sun and with Venus. Venus and the Sun are helping you through this process here. There's a lot here in terms of being able to use your knowledge, your information, being able to take that and use that towards this actual goal that you're trying to reach for. K2 is there in your seventh house. So, once again, you can attain a lot of wealth of knowledge and wisdom from other people. So this is a time where this becomes a really great time to actually be able to communicate and to work in partnerships, to work in teams for some of you, to look towards a teacher, a guide, to trust in your intuition. But this is a time of especially being able to communicate outside of yourself. Even though you have Rahu transiting your first house and there is a desire to come back into the self, there is a lot that you can gain in terms of other people at this time. A lot of things in question, a lot of things up in the air with this debilitated Mercury in your 11th house. So, for those of you with a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant, this will be a debilitated Mercury in your 10th house. This is not so bad for those of you with a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant. This is a time where you can use your creative side and put it to use in your career. And so, even though Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, which is the opposite of Mercury, Pisces is controlling your 10th house. And so a lot of you can use this in your career. You can use this in your profession where you can think more right brain during this period, especially during the debilitation and combustion of this, where you can gather a lot of creative insight, a lot of inspiration that you weren't able to access before. So, this can be very beneficial for those of you with a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant. This will meet up with the Sun and Venus as well. So this is a really great time for you to express yourself, to put your creativity out there with the Sun controlling that third house. This is very powerful where a lot of you can use your creativity, you can use your talents, you can move up the ladder with this. Even if you are not in a creative field, using this Mercury and Pisces transit here to come up with inspirational ideas, to work towards a team effort. This can work very well for those of you with a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant. And of course, you want to pay attention to what Mercury is doing in your own chart. Saturn also aspecting over to this debilitated Mercury is trying to give you some deeper insight. So Saturn there in the eighth house is not such a bad placement. Saturn is there to delay any sort of ups and downs that can take place from this position. But Saturn moving over to this aspect to Mercury is trying to give some deeper insight. Remember that the eighth house is connected to hidden knowledge and hidden resources, where there's a lot that you can actually attain through other people, a lot that you can gain through expressing and being open with others during this time. We also have K2 that is there in your sixth house. So once again, this is very good for your work life. There's a lot that you can gain from your subconscious, from your dream world, from your spirituality, from your inspiration, a lot of deeper knowledge that can pull through here. For those of you with the Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant, using this energy to your advantage. For those of you with a Cancer moon or Cancer ascendant, this is a debilitated Mercury in your ninth house. Not so bad. This is your ninth house, which gives you some great results here. Mercury is in a little bit of a difficult position, though. Mercury, remember, is your 12th house lord. And so there's a little bit of a difficulty here. There's a lot in terms of this confusion, this difficulty, this misunderstanding that can happen, especially for those of you who are in school at this moment, making sure that you are preparing, paying attention to close details at this time are important, as Mercury in Pisces gives a little bit of a daydreamy and foggy type of energy, where some of you can get lost in your studies, you can lose track of your studies with this shift here. But Mercury will be meeting up with the Sun and Venus. So a lot of creativity, a lot of knowledge that you can gain at this time. Remember that you must pay close attention. Mercury is taking away the focus as it is not in the best position here in Pisces. Remember that Mercury operates on logic and communication, and Pisces is very daydreamy, very imaginative, very abstract. This is a difficult position for Mercury. Saturn from your seventh house is aspecting over to Mercury. And so you can get a lot of support through other people who can guide you, who can teach you, who can mentor you through this Saturn aspect. K2 is there in your fifth house as well. So a lot of memories, a lot of wealth of knowledge that you have stored that you can pull on to assist you in understanding any sort of confusions here in education as well. This is a big time where you can use this energy to level up in your spiritual knowledge, in your wealth of deeper knowledge. But again, being careful about details and analytical understanding is a big area for those of you with a Cancer moon or Cancer ascendant. For those of you with a Leo moon or Leo ascendant, this is a combust and debilitated Mercury that will be in your eighth house. Very difficult. The eighth house being of sudden ups and downs. And so, with this position, you can see a lot of changes and fluctuations happening. And for many of you who've been going through these changes and fluctuations, we have this combust Venus that is going on in your eighth house as well. So there's a lot of difficulty here with this position where you can see sudden shifts and changes happening all of a sudden. This is an area where you want to make sure that you have all the details, you have all the information down, especially anything regarding money, anything regarding security, that you have everything in check, as certain things can shift out of nowhere with this position. Saturn is there in your sixth house, though, saving you from some difficulties. Saturn is there to delay and help you through some of these challenges that can pop up. And so this is definitely a time where you can see that you can avoid some difficulties and challenges that happen by making sure that you have a certain discipline and structure with this position of Saturn. K2 is also in its fifth aspect over to this debilitated Mercury as well. So there's a lot that you can gain from your home life, from your family, from going within. And so, a lot of you who are constantly in motion, constantly going through things, you can find yourself in some accidents or difficulties or disagreements popping up all of a sudden as you're quickly on the move. Things are quickly changing and shifting. So, some of you needing to slow down a little bit, to take a step back, to look inward through this transit. For those of you with a Virgo moon or Virgo ascendant, this is a debilitated Mercury in your seventh house. Very difficult as Mercury is your chart ruler and it is in its opposition to your first house. So, this is a difficult position where there can be some miscommunication through your relationships, through your partnerships, where there can be some confusion, some difficulties around this area. So you want to make sure that you are expressing yourself clearly, that if you're not understanding anything, that you're asking the proper questions to clarify things. There can be some fogginess in this area. Venus is also there, of course, in the association, a combust Venus and soon to be a combust Mercury. So ultimately, communication, socializing, connecting can be a difficulty here for those of you with a Virgo moon or Virgo ascendant. Venus and Mercury being our two social planets. Saturn is there in your fifth house. And so Saturn is also bringing some delays in terms of expressing yourself. And this is something that we've seen for quite a while here with this Saturn Capricorn active activity as well, where you can be very serious, very restricted in terms of having fun or enjoying yourself with this position. And so this makes this even more difficult, even more challenging with this aspect. Saturn is not exactly helping you out in this position here, but this is your fifth house where you can gain some clarity, you can gain some insight by actually trying to understand, by actually trying to educate yourself in this area where sudden confusions can pop up. You also have K2 that is there in your third house as well. So, again, this is a time of needing to communicate and understand at a deeper level, actually understanding at an emotional level with K2 there in that third house. So, for those of you with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant, this is a debilitated Mercury in your sixth house. Very difficult. Mercury is a beneficial planet for you, but it is badly damaged in this position of being debilitated and soon to be combust with this combust Venus, as Venus is your ruler. So there's a lot going on here in terms of some difficulties and challenges that can pop up, especially as Mercury comes into the sixth house. This becomes a bit of a wild card where you can get some sudden frustration, anxiety, some things that are not going your way with this position of Mercury. So some things that would be more structured, more logical, that would normally go your way can fall short during this transit. Saturn is aspecting from your fourth house over to your sixth house. So you can get some support. You can get some nourishment from your home, from your family that can help you through this difficulty that could come up during this transit. And again, you want to pay attention to where is Saturn in your chart. But Saturn is a very beneficial planet for those of you with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant. This can support you in a big way. K2 is there in your second house, once again, making that fifth aspect over to a debilitated Mercury. So K2 is trying to help you through this also. K2 is there from your second house, where again, you can get a lot of support through your family, a lot of understanding, a lot of care through your family. And you may find that some stories, some deeper meanings, some deeper understanding and different perspectives through your family can help you through some of these difficulties or delays that can come up for those of you with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant. For those of you with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio ascendant, this is a debilitated Mercury in your fifth house. Mercury is a damaging planet for those of you with a Scorpio ascendant and now debilitated. But Mercury is here in your fifth house where you can gain a lot through this. And so, for a lot of you, this can bring up some difficulties or delays in education. You can see yourself losing track of things. You can see yourself slacking off a little bit with this position. Mercury's not fully in its position of logic. But remember that Jupiter is your planet of education. So you're not fully in a difficult situation. This Mercury's looking over at your 11th house, where it's trying to get you to understand information on more of a spiritual, on more of a deeper level, especially with Mercury controlling your eighth house of occult knowledge. So, a lot of you are simply going deeper in your studies. You're going deeper in this area where you can learn more at a different level from a different perspective through this transit. But you want to be careful with education as this is a debilitated Mercury looking at your 11th house. Some of you can find yourself not being successful or getting to the position that you want to see. This combust Venus is also there, giving some difficulties as well. Venus can be a bit of a difficult planet as it's controlling your 12th house. And so this can be a time of, again, daydreaming, slacking off, drifting off. You want to make sure that you are staying focused on everything that you are learning, everything that you're practicing with this position here. Saturn is aspecting over to this debilitated Mercury from your third house. Saturn is also a difficult planet for those of you with a Scorpio ascendant. Saturn is trying to give you some logical information and some logical understanding of how you can navigate through this dream world or through this interpretative information, trying to give you some groundwork, some foundation to work with. And so this can be a little bit difficult, but over time you can find some understanding. K2 is also in its fifth aspect from your first house. So this is a area where you have to put a lot of effort into this. You have to use a lot of your energy and willpower to push through some of these challenges and difficulties that can pop up. For those of you with a Sagittarius ascendant or Sagittarius moon, this is a debilitated Mercury in your fourth house. This can bring you some anxiety and discomfort. This is a debilitated Mercury that is positioned in your fourth house of inner peace, of home. So there can be a little bit of a restlessness and anxiety that can pop up in this area. You want to make sure that any area where you feel like there is too much demands on you, where you feel too anxious, where you have too many things going on, that you are able to come back to that place of peace and quiet. This is going to help you tremendously with recharging from any sort of difficulties, and your family can be a big source of that comfort as Saturn is there in your second house, aspecting over. So these are difficult planets for those of you with a Sagittarius ascendant or Sagittarius moon. But over time, you can find some peace, you can find some comfort with all of these sudden changes and events that are happening. K2 back in your 12th house, this being a time of needing to go inward, needing to connect inward. This is going to help you tremendously with understanding, with being able to navigate through all of this as it is coming out of that fifth aspect. For those of you with a Capricorn moon or Capricorn ascendant, this is a combust and debilitated Mercury that will be in your third house. This is very difficult as the third house is originally Mercury's house of communication. So this can bring about some difficulties in actually being able to communicate, being able to socialize, feeling as though you're fitting in, being able to use your logic, use your practical skills. There can be some confusion, some difficulties that can arise with this Mercury Pisces combination. So this is a huge time where you want to make sure that you are paying attention to details. Things can become very confusing, things can get lost in the details. You can miss details at this time. So it's very important that you're paying attention to everything. And you want to look at where Mercury is positioned in your chart. Of course, Mercury is not so bad of a planet for those of you with a Capricorn moon or Capricorn ascendant, Mercury being friends with your ruler Saturn. So you can find some logic, you can find some understanding if you're willing to do the work. Saturn is there in your first house, aspecting over to Mercury. So this is about you applying yourself, you doing the work to figure this out, to understand this. If you are not going to put in any effort, if you're not going to stay disciplined in the process, then things can fall through during this transit. K2 is also going to make a fifth aspect over to this debilitated Mercury from your 11th house. So, a lot of information that you can gain through others, a lot of deeper insight and wisdom that you can gain through others, especially for some of you gaining this knowledge and wisdom through elders, through elder siblings at this time. This can be a huge area for you from large social groups. You can find some inspiration, you can find some deeper knowledge that can help you to understand things. Again, things are not necessarily going to make sense logically with this debilitated Mercury there in your third house of communication. This is also aspecting over to your ninth house. Once again, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to all of the details. This can affect your education as well. For those of you with an Aquarius moon or Aquarius ascendant, this is a debilitated Mercury in your second house. Make sure that you're paying close attention to your finances, that you're paying close attention to your daily needs and routine, that everything is done properly. These things can fall short with a debilitated Mercury there in your second house. So, making sure that you are keeping your solid foundation in order at this time is huge. Saturn is aspecting over to Mercury through from the 12th house. This is very difficult. Saturn wants you to pay close attention to how much are you giving away? How much energy are you expending? A lot of this can be difficult if you are giving away too much that you are not having enough to support yourself. K2 is also aspecting fifth from your 10th house. So K2 is very much trying to get you to move towards your destiny, move towards your purpose. As K2 is in this fifth aspect, K2 is saying that you need to pay close attention to your goals, to your discipline, to your foundation, your structure of what you're building. Keeping everything in order, staying disciplined, maintaining that structure is a huge area that will help you to grow and gain a lot through this period. Lastly, for those of you with a Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant, you have a debilitated Mercury in your first house. So this is a little bit of a difficult area here. Mercury is the opposite of your ruler Jupiter, but Mercury is already debilitated in your sign. So this is not necessarily the most difficult transit in the world for a Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant. You're already holding so much spiritual wealth of knowledge. And so this becomes a time where you actually become more practical, you become more detail oriented with this Mercury in your first house. So this is a bit of an unusual transit for those of you with the Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant, where you're more technical, you're more detailed, you're more analytical with this position than usual. This is also receiving a third aspect from Saturn in your 11th house. And so you are more so structured and detailed than most people would be at this time. This can bring a shock to a lot of your friend circle, a lot of your associates at this time where they might need you to step up and to play a role of a mentor or a teacher to help them through the practical things in life. K2 is also aspecting fifth from your ninth house. Your wisdom, your insight can help others in a huge way at this time. And so, interestingly enough, those of you with a Pisces moon, Pisces ascendant, being so introspective, holding so much spiritual wealth of knowledge, are the practical ones during this transit here of Mercury and Pisces. That was your horoscope for Mercury and Pisces, for Pisces moon or ascendant. And this has been your Mercury and Pisces transit for all 12 zodiac signs. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. This is one of the first transits that we are talking about for the month of April. We have several more to get into, so you don't want to miss out on what is coming here for the month of April. If you have any additional questions, anything you'd like to add, if you have anything that you want me to talk about as far as Vedic astrology goes, I will bring it up in a future video. Let me know down below in the comments. I want to thank you all so much for joining. If you enjoyed this video, feel free once again to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are interested in learning more about Vedic astrology, there is a course down below in the description along with the comments. I will see you all in the next video.